The bridal veil slipped from Linnea's hair as the locked doors opened, and every woman in the chapel stopped breathing. 3 days earlier, Linnea had been mending linen in the servants' wing when the royal decree arrived bearing the Black Wolf seal of Alpha King Dion. By sunset, she had learned the impossible truth: the king intended to marry her. Not a princess. Not a noblewoman. An Omega whose finest dress had once belonged to someone else. The court called it an honor. The servants called it a death sentence. No woman had survived the Alpha King's wedding night. That was how the whispers told it, at least. Dion had taken the throne young, hardened by war, and surrounded by stories no one dared repeat in his presence. Women had been sent to the royal chambers before. By morning, they were gone. Their families received sealed letters, their names disappeared from court records, and the king never explained. Fear supplied the explanation for him. Now Linnea stood at the end of the chapel aisle wearing pale sage-green linen beneath a borrowed ceremonial cloak, staring at the man everyone believed would kill her before sunrise. Dion was even more imposing than rumor promised. Tall and broad-shouldered, he wore black royal armor beneath a heavy fur mantle, its polished metal scarred by years of use. A crimson cloak fell behind him, and a king's sword rested at his side. Long black hair framed a sharply handsome face that showed no celebration, only attention. His dark gaze remained fixed on Linnea as she approached. She wanted to lower her eyes. Instead, she made herself meet his. If she was walking willingly toward death, she would at least see its face. Therion's expression changed almost imperceptibly. "You are afraid of me," he said when she reached him. It was not an accusation. "Everyone is." A murmur moved through the chapel at her answer. Linnea's pulse hammered, but she did not apologize. Dion glanced toward the watching nobles, then back at her. "And yet you came." Your decree did not sound like an invitation. Something flashed in his eyes. Not anger. Something closer to regret. That frightened her more. The marriage ceremony was brief. When Dion offered his hand, Linnea hesitated before placing hers in it. His fingers closed carefully around hers, without squeezing, without pulling her closer. That small restraint contradicted every warning she had heard. After the vows, the court expected him to claim authority over his new queen before them. Instead, Dion released her hand. "The ceremony is finished," he announced. "Leave us." No one moved at first. Then the chapel emptied with astonishing speed. Linnea remained beside the altar, suddenly alone with the Alpha King. Dion waited until the door shut. "There is something you must understand before tonight." Linnea's stomach tightened. "That I should prepare myself?" His jaw hardened. "That no door in this castle will be locked against you." She stared at him. "Including yours?" "Especially mine." He stepped away, deliberately placing several feet between them. "You will have your own chamber. No one enters without your permission. Not the guards. Not the council." His gaze held hers. "Not me." Linnea had prepared herself for threats, commands, perhaps cold indifference. She had not prepared for choice. "Then why marry me?" Dion went utterly still. For the first time, the powerful king looked like a man confronted by something he feared. "Because if I had not," he said quietly, "you would have been dead before the next full moon." Linnea felt the chapel tilt beneath her. "Who wants me dead?" Dion looked toward the Black Wolf seal carved above the altar, then back at his new wife. "That," he said, "is what the women before you tried to discover." Linnea followed Dion from the chapel with one question burning louder than all the others. What had truly happened to the women who entered the royal wing before her? He led her through the oldest section of the castle, where servants bowed and guards stepped aside without meeting her eyes. No one congratulated her. Their silence made the corridors feel like a procession toward something neither of them wished to name. At the top of a narrow staircase, Dion stopped before two doors facing each other. "Your chamber," he said, indicating the first. "Mine is across the hall." Linnea looked from one door to the other. "You expect me to sleep peacefully knowing someone wants me dead?" "No," his answer came without softness. "I expect you to stay alive." He handed her a small iron key. "Only you have this copy." Another contradiction. Every story about Thrayon described a king who controlled everything around him, yet he had just placed control of one door entirely in her hands. Linnea closed her fingers around the key. Tell me about the other women. Tyrion's face became unreadable. Not tonight. You married me because of them, but I am not allowed to know what happened to them. You are allowed to ask anything. That is not the same as receiving an answer. His gaze sharpened, but Linnea refused to retreat. Fear had ruled every hour since the decree arrived. She would not let it rule every decision too. If I am in danger, she said, then ignorance protects whoever is threatening me, not me. For several seconds, Thrayon said nothing. Then he reached beneath his fur mantle and removed a narrow silver chain. Hanging from it was a small black key. Come with me. He took her down another staircase into a quiet gallery lined with portraits of former queens. At its end stood a plain wooden door Linnea might have mistaken for a storage room. Thrayon unlocked it. Inside were shelves of sealed boxes. 7 of them. Each bore a woman's name and the royal wolf seal. Linnea stopped at the threshold. 7 women were brought into this castle during the last 6 years because the council believed one of them might become my Luna. And the court believes none of them survived your night. Thrayon turned toward her. The court believes many things because I allowed uncertainty to become rumor. Linnea studied him. Then what do the records say? That some became gravely ill. Some disappeared after leaving the royal wing. Some families were told only that their daughters would not return to court. His expression hardened with old regret. There was never proof that all 7 died. But none returned publicly to contradict the story, and I did not correct it when I could not yet explain what had happened. Linnea looked at the boxes differently now. The legend surrounding Thrayon had not been built entirely from facts. It had grown inside unanswered spaces. What happened to them here? She asked. Thrayon approached the nearest box, but did not touch it. Each woman became ill after entering the royal wing. The symptoms began differently, but always before dawn. I order the council to stop sending candidates after the 3rd. Linnea stared at the remaining boxes. Then why are there 7? His mouth tightened. Because being king does not mean every order I give is obeyed. The council claimed the kingdom required a Luna. They insisted the failures proved the women were unsuitable for the royal bond. And you believe that? For too long. It was the first admission of guilt she had heard from him. He did not excuse it. After the 5th woman, I began investigating privately. After the 7th, I found something the physicians had never been able to identify. He opened the final box. Inside lay folded letters, a faded ribbon, and a tiny glass vial sealed with dark wax. Linnea did not touch anything. What is that? A trace of the same unidentified substance was recovered from every chamber used by the women. The royal physicians tested what remained, but they could not determine what it was or how it had been introduced. Tyrion's voice lowered. It was never found elsewhere in the castle. Linnea understood the implication. Someone had targeted those rooms, and the easiest person to blame had always been the feared Alpha King behind a closed royal door. Then why choose me? She asked. Thrayon closed the box. Because 3 days ago, someone placed a vial bearing the same residue beneath your bed in the servants' wing. Linnea forgot how to breathe. Before you announced the marriage? Before I had even spoken your name publicly. Thrayon watched her absorb it. Someone knew you mattered before I knew why. Linnea looked down at the iron key in her palm. She had believed marriage placed her inside the danger. Now she understood that Thrayon had not brought danger to her door. It had already found her. You said I would have been dead before the next full moon. Yes. So you made me queen to protect me? Tyrion's expression darkened with something she could not yet understand. I made you queen because whoever has been choosing these women finally chose you first. Linnea did not sleep. Instead, she spent the hours before dawn searching for the reason someone had chosen her. Thrayon had forbidden nothing except leaving the royal wing without guards, and that freedom became the first weapon she possessed. She returned to the room containing the 7 boxes and asked for every household record connected to the women. Thrayon watched her from the doorway. You should rest. 7 women rested, Linnea replied. I would rather read. Something almost like approval crossed his face. He summoned the royal steward and ordered that she receive anything she requested. By sunrise, Linnea had covered a long table with meal lists, chamber assignments, physician notes, laundry records, and servant rotations. The women had come from different packs. They had different ages, diets, attendance, and rooms. Only one detail repeated. Each had spent her final evening in the royal wing. That explained the rumor, but not the cause. Linnea studied the records again until she noticed something smaller. These linens. Dion approached. What about them? Every woman received ceremonial bedding on the night she arrived. She pointed to the steward's marks. The sheets came from the same storeroom. Therian's expression hardened. So did yours. Linnea looked toward her chamber across the hall. Fear rose quickly, but she forced herself to think instead of obeying it. Do not remove anything yet. Dion turned sharply toward her. Linnea, if someone believes the trap is still untouched, they may reveal how it works. I will not use you as bait. Neither will I. She held his gaze. But this is my life they are arranging in secret. I decide whether I investigate it. Therian's instinct was plainly to refuse. She could see it in the tension across his shoulders. Then he did something she had not expected from a king accustomed to command. He nodded. Your decision. But we investigate together. They entered her chamber without touching the bed. Nothing appeared unusual. The pale sheets smelled faintly of lavender, and the blankets had been folded with perfect precision. Linnea searched the room slowly. Near the bed stood a carved wooden chest containing additional linens. She crouched several feet away and noticed a dusting of gray powder caught beneath the brass hinge. Dion. He moved toward her, but she immediately raised a hand. Do not come any closer. He stopped. Linnea did not touch the powder. The faint sweetness already lingering around the chest reminded her of the sealed vial in the seventh woman's box, but resemblance was not proof. We seal the room and preserve everything exactly as it is, she said. Dion nodded and turned toward the door. I will summon the royal physician. Wait. Linnea rose carefully without approaching the chest. Who examined the other women? Who examined the other women? The same physician. Then we tell him nothing yet. Dion studied her for a long moment. You trust no one. I trusted everyone yesterday. Yesterday, I thought you were the danger. The words should have insulted him. Instead, sadness briefly entered his eyes. Perhaps that belief has protected the real danger for years. Linnea looked again at the chest. A small symbol had been burned into the wood near its base, almost hidden beneath the decorative carving, a crescent surrounding 3 tiny leaves. She had seen it before. Not in the royal wing. In the servants' laundry, stamped onto bundles reserved for ceremonial use. She stood. The bedding does not begin here. Dion understood immediately. Before they left, he summoned 2 guards he trusted and stationed them outside Linnea's chamber with strict orders that no one enter, touch the bedding, or remove anything until he returned. Only then did they descend toward the lower service corridors, with Linnea leading because she knew those passages better than any king could. Servants stared when their new queen appeared in the same simple sage dress she had worn beneath her wedding cloak, with Dion following several steps behind. For the first time, Linnea realized something had changed. She was not being dragged through his mystery. He was following her investigation. At the laundry storeroom, she found stacks of ordinary linens, but no ceremonial bundles. The steward insisted they had been delivered upstairs the previous afternoon. Linnea searched the shelves until she noticed 7 empty spaces along the back wall. 7 faded crescent marks remained in the dust. Then she saw an 8th. Fresh. Someone had prepared a place for her bedding before Dion ever announced their marriage. Linnea touched nothing. You were right, she whispered. Dion stood beside her, staring at that clean rectangular space. Someone expected you to enter my chambers. Before you chose me. Yes. Linnea turned toward him. Then perhaps you did not choose me first. Therian's face went still. Footsteps sounded beyond the storeroom door. A servant entered carrying a bundle of freshly folded linen, saw the king and queen, and froze. The bundle slipped from her arms. Sewn discreetly into one corner of the top sheet was the same crescent and 3 leaves. Linnea looked at Thryon, and for the first time since becoming his wife, fear gave way to something stronger. They had not discovered who was hunting her. But they had proved one thing: her marriage had been anticipated by someone who should not have known it would happen. The servant stared at the fallen linen as though she had never seen the crescent mark before. Linnea noticed the woman's trembling hands, but fear was not proof of guilt, and she refused to let suspicion become another version of this same injustice that had trapped 7 women before her. "What is your name?" she asked. "Mira, Your Majesty." "Where did you get these sheets?" Mira swallowed. "From the East Preparation Room. I was told they belonged here." Thryon stepped forward, and the servant immediately lowered her head. "Who told you?" "The linen ledger, Your Majesty." "The assignment was already written when I began my shift." Thryon ordered the storeroom sealed, but Linnea caught his arm before he could summon the council. His gaze dropped briefly to her hand. She released him. "If the person responsible learns we found the mark, the records may disappear." Thryon considered this, then dismissed everyone except Mira. "Show us the ledger." The book was kept 2 rooms away beneath a clerk's desk. Linnea turned directly to the current week. Her name appeared beside the ceremonial bedding in dark ink. The entry was dated 5 days earlier. Her wedding decree had arrived only 3 days ago. Thryon read the date twice. Who had access to this? Mira named the household steward, 2 senior attendants, the royal physician's assistant, and the council chamberlain. 4 possibilities. Linnea studied the handwriting. And who decides which woman receives ceremonial linen? Mira hesitated. Traditionally, the council chamberlain sends the order after the king approves a potential Luna. Thrion's expression changed. "I approved no candidate." Linnea felt the shape of the mystery widening. Someone had not merely predicted Thrion's choice. Someone had prepared the castle to make that choice happen. "Why did you marry me?" she asked him. "The real reason." Thryon glanced at Mira, then ordered her escorted somewhere safe. When they were alone, he closed the ledger. "The vial beneath your bed was not the only reason." Linnea waited. "The night before I issued the decree, my wolf reacted to you." Her heartbeat stumbled. Mate bonds belong to stories whispered by firesides and declarations made before entire packs. They did not belong in laundry rooms surrounded by poisoned sheets. "Reacted how?" "He recognized you." Thrion's voice was controlled, but something beneath it was not. "As what?" He looked directly at her. "I did not know. I still do not." Linnea folded her arms. "That sounds convenient." "It frightened me." His admission silenced her. Thryon rested one hand on the ledger. "For 6 years, the council has insisted I must find a Luna. 7 women entered this castle because others believed they might satisfy some ancient expectation. My wolf rejected every one of them before they crossed the royal threshold. Then I passed you in the servants' corridor, and he responded before I even knew your name." Linnea remembered that moment. She had been carrying folded tablecloths. Thryon had stopped several feet away and stared at her long enough to make her wonder whether she had broken some rule. The next morning, the vial had been discovered beneath her bed. "Someone saw your reaction," she said. "Possibly. And knew what it meant before you did." Thrion's silence answered her. Linnea looked back at the ledger. The date came before that encounter. Her breath caught. "No. This entry was written before you passed me in the corridor." Thryon went motionless. That changed everything. Whoever prepared the bedding had not reacted to Thryon recognizing her. They had expected his wolf to recognize her. Linnea turned the ledger toward the window, examining the page more carefully. Beneath her name was a faint impression left by writing on a sheet that had since been removed. She angled the book toward the light. Thryon came beside her, close enough for his shadow to cross the page, but careful not to touch her. Only fragments remained visible. A date. The crescent symbol. And 2 words pressed deeply enough into the paper to survive. Royal blood. Linnea's stomach tightened. "I am an Omega servant. That is what you were told." She looked at him sharply. "Do not turn 2 words into a destiny." Thryon held her gaze, then nodded. "You are right. No declaration. No command. No attempt to tell her who she was." For the second time, He accepted the boundary she placed between them. "We follow evidence," he said. "Nothing else." It was a small thing, yet something inside Linnea shifted. Not trust. Not yet. But the certainty that Dion was incapable of listening to her had begun to crack. She carefully closed the ledger. "Then we find the missing page. And the person who removed it." Linnea shook her head. "No. First we find out why 7 women had to disappear before I arrived." Therian's face darkened with old guilt. "You believe they were connected to you?" "I believe someone spent 6 years searching for something." She placed her palm over the closed ledger. "And whatever they were searching for, they think they finally found it in me." The missing page had not been destroyed. Someone had hidden it where no queen was expected to look. Linnea found the first clue in the 7 women's records before noon, when she noticed that each woman had requested access to the old royal archives shortly before becoming ill. Dion wanted guards sent immediately. Linnea refused. "If someone inside the castle is watching us, an armed search tells them exactly where we are looking." Therian's jaw tightened, but he did not overrule her. "Then how do you intend to enter unnoticed?" Linnea almost smiled, though nothing about the situation felt amusing. "I spent 4 years carrying laundry through this castle. Kings use grand doors. Servants know the useful ones." An hour later, she led him through a narrow service passage behind the old kitchens, down a stone stairway that ended beside the abandoned archive. Dion had removed his crimson cloak and fur mantle, but there was no disguising his height or commanding presence. Linnea glanced back at him. "You are terrible at being inconspicuous." "I have had limited practice." It was the closest either had come to lightness since their wedding. The moment vanished when they entered the archive. Dust-covered shelves of forgotten marriage contracts, bloodline registries, and council decrees. Linnea searched for the crescent and 3 leaves. After nearly an hour, she found the symbol embossed on a narrow leather volume. "Dion." He joined her as she opened it. The book contained records from the reign of Therian's grandfather. Most pages listed noble families once considered eligible for royal marriage. Near the back, however, several pages had been removed. One remained. On it was the same phrase they had seen impressed into the linen ledger: royal blood. Beneath it appeared a family line ending 23 years earlier with the birth of an unnamed daughter. "Why is there no name?" Linnea asked. Dion examined the faded notation. "Because someone erased it." A second mark had been drawn beside the entry, the crescent surrounding 3 leaves. Linnea's pulse quickened. "So the symbol is not from the laundry?" "No. The laundry inherited it from somewhere older." A sound came from the corridor. Dion immediately moved toward the door, but Linnea caught his sleeve. "Wait." Footsteps approached, paused, then retreated. When silence returned, Linnea noticed a thin strip of paper beneath a cabinet, as if disturbed by the vibration of the steps. She knelt and pulled it free. It was not the missing ledger page. It was a letter, yellowed with age and sealed long ago with broken green wax. Only part remained readable. The writer warned that a direct daughter of the surviving Vale line must never be brought within recognition distance of a reigning Alpha King. According to the old record, the first royal wolves had been bound to the Vale bloodline generations earlier, and their descendants could recognize a true Vale daughter without ceremony, scenting ritual, or council approval. Linnea read the passage twice. "Recognize her how?" Dion took the damaged letter carefully. "It does not say exactly. Only that the wolf would know before the man understood why." Linnea remembered Dion stopping in the servants' corridor, his entire body going still while she stood there holding folded tablecloths. Until now, she had believed that moment belonged only to them. The document suggested someone else could have predicted it. "Then whoever knew I was Seraphine's daughter would know what your wolf would do if you came near me." Therian's expression hardened. "Yes, but they would still have to get us close enough." Neither of them spoke for a moment. That question was worse than the answer they had just found. Linnea looked again at the damaged record. "This cannot prove I am the daughter mentioned here." "No," Dion said. "It proves only that someone who knew the surviving bloodline could predict the reaction of a royal wolf." He stepped back, deliberately leaving the conclusion to her. "We follow evidence. Nothing else." The name hidden beneath Linnea's childhood records belonged to a woman the kingdom had been ordered to forget. They found it that afternoon in a baptism registry the Ion removed from the restricted royal collection himself. The entry had been altered, but the original ink remained faintly visible beneath the correction: Seraphine Vale, mother of one daughter, bloodline protected by royal decree. Linnea stared at the name until it stopped looking like handwriting and became a memory. Seraphine was my mother. Dion stood across the table, silent. She told me Vale was only a name she used before coming to the castle. She never said why. Linnea turned the page. Beside Seraphine's name was the crescent surrounding 3 leaves. She knew. Dion examined the seal. At least part of it. Another document provided the consequence. 24 years earlier, the council had issued a secret order dissolving the protections granted to the Vale line. The signature belonged to Therian's father, but beneath it appeared an authorization from the council chamberlain's office. My father believed this family line had ended, Dion said. Someone made certain he believed it. Linnea's eyes moved to the date. The decree had been issued months before her birth. Her mother had not entered palace service by accident. She had hidden inside the one place where hundreds of low-ranking workers could disappear into routine. She brought me here because she thought anonymity would protect me. And it did, Dion said. Until someone started searching. Linnea thought of the 7 women. Different families, different lives, all carrying some distant connection to the same concealed bloodline. The council had not known which branch survived, so candidates had been brought near Dion one by one. They were tests, she whispered. If your wolf recognized one of them, the search ended. Therian's face tightened. And when he did not, someone made sure the woman could never explain what happened inside the royal wing. Linnea looked at him. Then the stories about you were useful. More than useful. They were protection for whoever designed this. For years, Therian's reputation had carried the blame while the true architect remained invisible. Linnea understood why he had become so controlled, so unwilling to speak about the women. But understanding did not erase his responsibility. You knew they were becoming ill, she said. Why did you let the council continue after you ordered it stopped? Dion did not look away. Because I believed removing myself from the process was enough. I refused to meet the later candidates. I thought distance meant I was no longer participating. His voice lowered. I was wrong. Linnea waited. A king does not become innocent merely because he refuses to look at what happens under his authority. There was no excuse in the words. Only recognition. If I had challenged the council publicly instead of withdrawing, perhaps the 4th woman would never have entered this castle. Perhaps neither would the 5th, 6th, or 7th. Linnea felt the weight of his regret without allowing it to become her burden. Then do differently now. Dion nodded. Tell me how. The question startled her more than any command could have. A king asking an Omega how power should be used. Linnea closed the registry. We do not confront the council yet. Whoever erased my mother knows the archives. Whoever prepared my bedding controls servants without appearing beside them. If we accuse the wrong person, the truth disappears. Then what do you want? I want the 7 women's families contacted privately. I want every original letter returned to this room. And I want Mira protected without making it look like protection. Dion listened to every instruction. Then he called his most trusted captain and repeated Linnea's plan exactly, giving the orders in her name as well as his. By evening, something subtle had changed throughout the castle. Servants who had looked at Linnea with pity that morning now bowed to her as someone participating in the kingdom's decisions. She knew recognition could vanish as quickly as it appeared, but this was different from being rescued. Dion had not given her authority as a gift. He had acknowledged authority she had already exercised. When they returned to the royal wing, Linnea stopped outside her chamber. Dion remained across the corridor beside his own door. You still think I should sleep alone? She asked. His expression became careful. I think you should sleep wherever you feel safest. Linnea looked at the sealed chamber where the marked bedding had been removed. I am not asking where you want me. I know. She studied him, then unlocked her door. Have a chair placed outside. Therian's eyebrows lifted slightly. For a guard. For you. Silence passed between them. The door stays locked, she added. You stay on the other side. Tharion inclined his head. As you wish. It was not romance. It was not forgiveness. It was the first piece of trust Linnea had chosen to give him. Hours later, she woke to voices beyond the door. Tharion was speaking quietly with a messenger who had returned from one of the 7 families. Linnea unlocked the door but did not open it completely. Tharion turned toward her. His face told her the message mattered. One of them survived, he said. Linnea gripped the door. One of the 7 women? Yes. Tharion held up a sealed letter. And she says she knows who ordered her silence. The surviving woman had written only one name, but it was enough to turn Thyrion's silence into something colder than anger. Council Chamberlain Orinth. Linnea read the letter twice beneath the candlelight while Tharion remained outside her open doorway, still honoring the boundary she had set hours earlier. The woman was named Isara. 6 years ago, she had been the second candidate brought to the royal wing. She remembered the ceremonial sheets, the sweet scent that appeared after the room was prepared, and Orinth visiting her privately before sunset. He had told her the king required absolute obedience and handed her a tonic that he claimed would strengthen her for the royal bond. Isara never drank it. She poured it into a flower pot because its smell frightened her. Before dawn, she became weak anyway. A sympathetic maid helped her leave through a service gate, and Isara allowed the kingdom to believe she had died because Orintha's warning followed her into exile. If she ever spoke, her younger brother would disappear from the Royal Academy. Why did the sealed records say she was dead? Linnea asked. They did not, Tharion said. They said she was lost after leaving the royal wing. Linnea understood immediately. The court had turned uncertainty into a story, and Tharion had allowed that story to remain because exposing the truth would have meant admitting he could not explain what was happening inside his own castle. Your silence protected him. Thyrion's gaze lowered. Yes, and your reputation frightened everyone enough that nobody questioned the simpler answer. Yes. Again, he offered no defense. Linnea folded Isara's letter carefully. Then we do not arrest Orinth. Tharion looked at her. He threatened a woman into hiding for 6 years. And if you arrest him tonight, he will claim Isara invented everything because she fears you. We have a witness, not the whole truth. Thyrion's wolf seemed close beneath his controlled expression, but he nodded. What do you propose? Linnea returned to the old ledger. We let him believe I still know nothing. The next morning, Linnea entered the council chamber beside Tharion. She wore her simple pale green gown instead of the elaborate royal clothes prepared for her, and whispers followed her across the marble floor. Orinth stood among the senior counselors, silver-haired and dignified, with the calm expression of a man who had spent decades deciding which truths reached a king. He bowed. Your Majesty. My queen. Linnea watched his eyes when he said the final word. No surprise. No uncertainty. Only calculation. Chamberlain, she said, I am told you oversaw preparations for the previous Luna candidates. Thyrion's attention shifted toward her. This question had not been part of their plan. Linnea felt his concern but continued. Orinth smiled politely. Only ceremonial matters. Such as betting? The room became quieter. Orintha's smile remained. Among many things. Linnea placed the linen ledger on the council table. Then perhaps you can explain why my ceremonial betting was ordered 2 days before the king decided to marry me. For the first time, Orintha's expression changed. Barely. A pause no longer than a heartbeat. But Linnea saw it. So did Tharion. Clerical error, Orinth answered. Then you will not object to an audit of every ceremonial order from the last 6 years. Several counselors exchanged uneasy looks. Orinth did not. Of course not. Linnea had expected resistance. His cooperation frightened her more. Good, she said. The queen will oversee it, Tharion announced. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Orinth looked toward him. Traditionally, such matters fall under the chamberlain's authority. Thyrion's voice remained calm. Tradition is precisely what failed 7 women. The words landed across the chamber with unmistakable weight. Linnea looked at him. This was the first time he had publicly acknowledged those women instead of allowing rumor to carry their memory. Orentha's face tightened. Your Majesty, exposing private royal matters may damage the crown. Thyone did not hesitate. Then the crown will bear the damage. Something shifted inside Linnea. This was no longer the man who believed withdrawing from wrongdoing made him separate from it. Thyone was choosing responsibility where everyone could see the cost. Orenth bowed, but when he straightened, his gaze settled on Linnea. As the queen wishes. She recognized the warning hidden beneath the courtesy. That evening, Mira brought the first boxes of council records to Linnea's chamber. Buried among routine orders was a payment authorized by Orenth 23 years earlier to relocate a palace servant named Seraphine Vale, Linnea's mother. The destination was not another village or pack territory. It was the palace itself. Mira found another order folded behind Seraphine's relocation record. It was recent, issued from the Chamberlain's office only hours before Thyone had encountered Linnea in the servants' corridor. The order reassigned the western dining linens to the lower passage and specifically placed Linnea on the delivery. Thyone read it once, then again. I used that corridor because Orenth moved my council meeting to the western chamber that morning. Linnea felt the pieces settle into place. He arranged both routes. Thyrion's face went still. He did not wait for my wolf to find you. He put me where your wolf could find me. Linnea looked at the older document proving Orenth had controlled her mother's placement before her birth. 23 years of knowledge connected to one carefully arranged encounter. Orenth had known who Linnea was. He had known what the Vale records claimed a royal wolf would do. What he could not have known was what Thyone himself would choose afterward. Linnea stared at the document. Orenth had not discovered her mother hiding among the servants. He had placed her there. Thyone read over her shoulder, then stepped back as Linnea turned toward him. He knew where I was my entire life. Yes. Then why wait until now? Thyone looked at the crescent seal beside Seraphine's name. Perhaps he was never waiting for you. Linnea followed his gaze. The answer came with a terrible clarity. Orenth had kept the hidden bloodline close, tested women connected to it, controlled who approached the Alpha King, and allowed Ion himself to become the frightening legend that concealed every failure. Linnea whispered, "He was waiting for your wolf to recognize me." A knock sounded at the door. Mira entered carrying a sealed council message. Her face had gone pale. Linnea broke the wax and read the order inside. At sunrise, Orenth had summoned the full court to formally challenge the legitimacy of the new queen. Thyone reached for the message, but Linnea folded it first. "No," she said quietly. "Let him challenge me." Thyone studied her. "You know he is setting a trap." "Yes." Linnea looked at the document proving Orenth had controlled her mother's placement before her birth. For 23 years, someone else had decided where she belonged, what she should know, and when her existence would become useful. That ended now. Tomorrow he expects an Omega servant frightened of losing a crown. She lifted her eyes to Thyone. Tomorrow he learns I am not fighting to keep one. At sunrise, Linnea entered the full court carrying the evidence Orenth had spent 23 years believing she would never find. She wore the same pale sage gown she had chosen the day before, without jewels or a ceremonial crown. Thyone walked beside her in black armor and crimson, but when they reached the center of the hall, he did not step ahead of her. Orenth noticed. So did everyone else. "The legitimacy of the queen must be examined," Orenth announced. "The kingdom cannot accept an unknown Omega simply because the king's wolf responded to her." Linnea heard the whispers begin. She waited until they faded. "Then examine me." Orenth had expected fear. His hesitation revealed it. "Your ancestry is uncertain." "You know my ancestry better than I do." Silence fell. Linnea placed Seraphine Vale's relocation order on the council table. "You authorized my mother's placement in this palace before I was born." Orenth glanced at the document. "Administrative records prove nothing. Then perhaps 7 women prove more." Thyrion's expression tightened, but he remained silent because this was Linnea's choice. She named each former candidate aloud. With every name, the room grew quieter. Each woman carried a connection to the same concealed bloodline. Each was brought near the king. Each received ceremonial bedding marked with the same crescent seal. And when the king's wolf failed to recognize her, each woman conveniently disappeared from court. Orantha's composure finally cracked. That is speculation. Isara does not think so. A side door opened. Isara entered under royal protection. She looked older than the portrait preserved in Therian's records, but she walked without hesitation. Oranth went pale. You told me to drink the tonic, Isara said. You told me silence was the only way my brother would remain safe. The court erupted. Dion raised one hand, and the chamber fell silent. Oranth turned toward him. Your Majesty, this woman vanished 6 years ago. Her accusations cannot outweigh the stability of the kingdom. No, Dion said. But my failure can. Linnea looked at him. He stepped forward, not toward Oranth, but toward the assembled court. For 6 years, rumors claimed women entered my royal wing and did not survive. I knew those rumors were false, but I allowed them to remain because I believed silence protected the crown while I investigated privately. His voice carried through the hall. I was wrong. My silence protected the person responsible. Whatever judgment follows today, that failure belongs to me. Linnea felt the emotional weight of the admission move through the room. Dion was destroying the shield his own reputation had provided. Oranth understood it too. You would weaken your throne for an Omega, he demanded. Therian's gaze hardened. No. I would stop weakening it for you. Oranth reached for the final weapon he possessed. Then ask your precious queen why her bloodline was hidden. Ask what happens when a Veil woman stands before an Alpha King. Linnea's pulse quickened. Dion did not look away from her. Tell them, she said. Oranth smiled thinly. The Veil women were not merely royal descendants. Their line carried an ancient bond to the first Wolf Kings. A true surviving daughter could be recognized by the reigning Alpha's wolf without ceremony, without council approval, without any noble arrangement. That is why the line was erased. It could overturn every marriage alliance the council controlled. The truth struck the chamber like a bell. Linnea finally understood the 7 women, her mother's concealment, the marked linens, and Orantha's patience. He had not been trying to prevent Therion from finding a Luna. He had been controlling the moment when the true bloodline would finally appear. Why keep me alive? Linnea asked. Orantha's expression became almost proud. Because a hidden heir is useless until the throne needs one. Therian's wolf had recognized Linnea exactly when Oranth needed proof that the Veil line had survived. You expected his wolf to recognize me, Linnea said. Oranth remained silent. The old Veil records told you what would happen when a reigning Alpha came close to a direct daughter of the bloodline. You knew my mother was Seraphine Veil. You knew where she had hidden me because you were the one who placed her inside this palace. And the morning Therion first saw me, your office changed my work assignment and moved his council meeting until our paths crossed in the same corridor. The court had gone completely silent. Linnea placed both orders beside Seraphine's record. You did not predict our meeting. You arranged it. Therian's expression darkened as the final deception became clear. Oranth had manipulated the circumstances, but he had not controlled the king's response to them. Then you prepared my ceremonial bedding before Therion chose to marry me, Linnea continued, because the moment his wolf recognized me, you knew I was the woman you had spent years searching for. Oranth finally answered. I knew what his wolf would recognize. I could not know what the king would do with that knowledge. Linnea looked toward Therion. That distinction mattered. Oranth had engineered the encounter. The wolf's recognition came from the ancient bond. But Therian's decision to protect her through marriage had still been his own. And that was your mistake, Linnea said. You understood the bloodline. You understood the wolf. You thought that meant you understood us. She turned back toward Oranth. When the Ion chose marriage, you adapted. The ceremonial room was already prepared, and I was supposed to become ill like the women before me. Then the kingdom would believe another woman had failed to survive the king, the surviving Veil line would disappear, and Dion would carry the blame again. This time, Oranth had no answer. His silence changed every face in the room. Dion ordered the record secured and Oranth removed from authority pending formal judgment, but Linnea raised her hand before the guards approached. One more thing. She turned to the court. Do not recognize me because of blood. Confusion spread around her. My mother spent her life hiding from people who believed ancestry gave them ownership over another person's future. I will not escape that system by accepting a different version of it. She removed the royal marriage ring and held it in her palm. Dion went completely still. I was married because danger left me little meaningful choice, she said. If this marriage is to remain, I choose it again knowing the truth. Then she looked directly at Dion. But not today. Pain crossed his face, followed by something stronger, acceptance. He bowed his head before her and the entire court. Then the choice is yours. No command. No claim. No appeal to destiny. Linnea closed her fingers around the ring. For the first time in her life, the future was not being decided by a council, a bloodline, a king, or a bond. It belonged to her. 3 weeks later, Linnea returned to the Great Hall not because anyone summoned her, but because she had decided what came next. The court rose when she entered, though she wore no crown. Dion stood beside the throne in black royal armor, his crimson cloak falling behind him, but the second he saw her, his attention left every noble in the room. During those 3 weeks, he had kept his promise. He had not asked Linnea to remain his wife. He had not invoked the bond his wolf recognized. Instead, he had opened every sealed record connected to the 7 women, restored their names publicly, and offered each surviving family the truth the crown had once denied them. Isara's testimony had been supported by payment records, altered registries, and orders carrying Orintha's authorization. The council chamberlain was stripped of office and sentenced under the kingdom's laws after a public hearing. More importantly to Linnea, the system that had allowed him to control royal marriages was dismantled. No council could again send a woman into the royal household as a candidate without her freely given consent. Dion had also issued a decree correcting the story that had followed him for years. The women had not vanished because they failed him. They had been failed by the crown. His name remained attached to that failure because he refused to erase his own responsibility from the record. Linnea had watched all of it from outside the marriage he had promised not to force upon her. That was why she had come back. Linnea, Dion said. He did not call her queen. She crossed the hall until only a few feet separated them. I heard you refuse the council's request to restore the old Luna selection laws under another name. I did. And you gave the surviving families access to the royal archives. They deserved answers. You also placed servants on the new oversight council. A faint uncertainty entered his expression. You told me powerful people should stop deciding the lives of those beneath them without hearing their voices. Linnea remembered saying something close to that during one of their long nights studying records. She had not known he would turn it into law. You listened. Too late for some things. His voice softened. But I am learning to listen before regret becomes the only thing left. The hall was silent around them. Linnea reached into the pocket of her sage green gown and removed the marriage ring. Therian's gaze fell to it, but he made no movement. When you married me, she said, I believed surviving you would be the greatest challenge of my life. Pain touched his face, but he accepted the words. Instead, I learned that everyone was afraid of the wrong thing. The danger was never one night behind your door. It was years of silence around it. Dion lowered his eyes. Silence I helped preserve. Yes. She would not heal him by lying. And then you broke it. His gaze returned to hers. Linnea stepped closer. You could have protected your reputation. You chose the women's names instead. You could have protected your throne. You chose the truth instead. You could have used the bond to keep me. Her fingers closed around the ring. You chose my freedom instead. Therian's voice was almost a whisper. There was no other choice worth making. Linnea shook her head. There is always another choice. That is why the right one matters. Then she placed the ring in his open palm. His expression changed, but before disappointment could settle there, Linnea closed his fingers around it. Ask me properly. Dion stared at her. The Alpha King, who had faced armies and councils without hesitation, suddenly seemed uncertain of a single sentence. Then, before the entire court, he removed his sword and set it aside. He did not kneel as a performance of surrender. He simply stood before her without weapon, title, or command between them. "Linnea Vale," he said, "will you choose a life with me, knowing you owe me nothing?" Tears warmed her eyes, but her voice remained steady. "Yes." Only then did Dion return the ring to her hand. The court erupted, but Linnea barely heard it. Months later, when the kingdoms celebrated their marriage again, there was no locked royal chamber and no frightened bride walking toward a fate chosen by strangers. The 7 women were remembered by name in the restored royal record. Isara attended as an honored witness. The crescent and 3 leaves, once used to mark women for secret judgment, became the seal of a new charter protecting free consent in royal bonds and marriages. And when evening came, Dion stopped outside Linnea's door exactly as he had on their first night. "May I come in?" he asked. Linnea looked at the man the kingdom had once feared, then at the open door she could close whenever she wished. She smiled and held out her hand. "Yes." Dion entered only after she invited him, and the door remained unlocked. For years, people had whispered that no woman survived a night belonging to the Alpha King. Linnea changed the kingdom by proving that love was never supposed to require a woman to belong to anyone.